Hello, my name is Hannah and I'm a teacher from Twinkl. Thanks for joining me for daily reading. This is the 7th in a series of 10 videos where we're reading a story called Jazz Harper, Space Explorer. Every day we're reading a chapter of the story and we're talking about a reading skill. I'm going to be asking you some questions throughout the video, so if you'd like to write your answers down, you'll need a piece of paper, or click on the link in the description below to download an activity sheet. You can type straight onto that activity sheet, or you could print it out. If you haven't been reading along with us so far, it's best to go back and find one of the earlier videos to catch up. If you have been reading along with us, I'd like you to pause the video and discuss with someone or have a think about what happened most recently in the story. Well done. In the story, Jazz and her mum and Jazz's new friend Elijah are living on Mars for the first time. Jazz has just started Mars school, which is nothing like she expected, and we've met a mean bully named Letitia. In the last chapter, Jazz and Elijah were bored, and they were adventuring around the colony, but all the adults kept telling them not to go places. Jazz was frustrated. She went into her mum's science lab and accidentally smashed a very precious sample. Now, Jazz and Elijah are in trouble. Chapter 6 is called Vital Equipment. You should have read this single page at the start of Chapter 6, where colony residents are warned not to do any physical activities outside of the gym. If you haven't read that, pause the video now and have a read. Today we're going to read the rest of Chapter 6 and we're going to talk about conjunctions. Let's get started. Sol 100, Mars Year 57. Dear Diary, I'm grounded. I'm not allowed anywhere except home and the schoolroom where Ms. K or Mum can accompany me. What does grounded mean, really? Does it mean that you're planted in the ground like a potato? Does it mean that you live underground like a mole? I mean, it's true, I do live underground, but so does everyone else on this silly planet, apart from maybe the aliens. Or does being grounded mean that you can't take off? Even now, shut in my bedroom, I can still jump higher than I ever could on Earth. Ha! You can't ground me. I'm not grounded because I smashed the rock. That was an accident. I just got warned to be sensible next time. I'm grounded because of what happened next. The story is a long one, so settle in. I'm going to tell you everything. After all, it's not like there's anything else for me to do. It all started when Elijah's mum said that she had a fun art project for us and summoned us to the greenhouse. Look at all this beetroot, said Elijah's mum. If you've never seen beetroot freshly dug from the ground, they're like knobbly purple juggling balls with heads of leafy hair. Today we're going to make beetroot paint. Elijah pointed out that he already knew how to make beetroot paint, so his mum said that he could help to teach me. Apparently, on Earth, they had their own allotment full of carrots, pumpkins, and sunflowers. I thought that making paint sounded like fun. More fun than anything else on Mars, anyway. We grabbed Ellie Mae and headed for the kitchens. Let's stop there for a minute and talk about conjunctions. Do you know what a conjunction is? If you do, pause the video and tell someone, or you could write it down on a piece of paper. Okay, a conjunction is a word which joins two simple sentences together to make one longer complex sentence. Can you think of any words which join together two sentences? Pause the video and write down as many as you can think of. Well done. There are many different conjunctions that we use all the time, such as and, but, because, and so. On page 94, there's a sentence at the top of paragraph 4. Elijah pointed out that he already knew how to make beetroot paint, so his mum said that he could help to teach me. I'd like you to have a look at this sentence and see if you can find the two simple sentences that are joined together, and then write down the word that is joining them. Each of those simple sentences will make sense on its own, and there'll be a single word in between. Pause the video to write down what word that is now. Well done. There are two simple sentences here. The first one is, Elijah pointed out that he already knew how to make beetroot paint. The second is, his mum said that he could help to teach me. The word in the middle that's joining those two simple sentences together is so. Let's keep reading. To make beetroot paint, you need beetroot, water and corn flour. 1. First, chop the beetroot up into very small pieces. 2. Next, pour boiling water over it and leave it to cool completely. 3. Then pour the mixture through a sieve to get out the lumps. 4. Finally, mix corn flour into it to make a purple paste. Ellie Mae is too young to use a sharp knife or pour boiling water, so we had to do those steps for her. She's very good at mixing, though. So good that she splashed purple paint all over her green dress. We'd just finished mixing the paint when Mum turned up, looking for me, to check that I hadn't got myself into trouble again. As if! When she saw the paint, she went to fetch scrap paper from the lab for us to paint on. There's almost no paper on Mars because it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth. Before I turn over, let's have a look at one more conjunction. Look at the sentence that I've just read. There's almost no paper on Mars because it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth. Pause the video now and see if you can write down the conjunction in that sentence. Great. The two simple sentences here are, there's almost no paper on Mars, and it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth. The word joining them and the conjunction in this sentence is because. Before we carry on, let's do a little experiment. At the moment, because is right in the middle of this sentence. There's almost no paper on Mars because it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth. Can you write down this sentence again, but rearrange it so that because is at the beginning? Pause the video now and write down the same sentence, but with because at the beginning. Well done. You could rewrite this sentence as, because it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth, there's almost no paper on Mars. If you've written that down, well done. Take a look at your two simple sentences. Is there anything in between them now? If not, you'll need to add a comma. Because it's another thing that has to be shipped from Earth, comma, there's almost no paper on Mars. If you didn't write a comma first, add one now in between those two simple sentences. Let's keep reading. You can draw some really interesting pictures around scientific graphs and data tables if you're creative enough, though. Ellie Mae turned a pie chart into an enormous flower, and Elijah turned a line graph into an exploding volcano. I turned a histogram into an alien city with skyscrapers and hot air balloons and Martian bicycles. I showed it to Mum, and she said that it was very imaginative. All of a sudden, the alarm went off, and the LED display flashed up on the canteen wall. Biolab cooler major fault. All hands to Biolab. I set off at a run, but Mum pulled me back. Where are you going? She asked. It says all hands, I pointed out. I don't think that you children will be much help, said Mum. Stay here and keep out of trouble. We'll be back as soon as we can. Then she muttered so quietly that I could only just make out, I haven't had a chance to investigate yet. Oh, precious samples. As she and the other grown-ups rushed away, we were left alone with the noisy alarms and purple paint. We soon ran out of scrap paper to paint with. That was when I had an idea. Ellie Mae, how would you like it if I fixed your dress? Ellie Mae's dress was still splattered with purple spots. They were definitely going to leave stains. I thought that I should at least turn the spots into a pretty design so that they looked deliberate. Yes, please, said Ellie Mae. Soon all three of us were painting purple stars and moons and planets all over Ellie Mae's dress. Then, from absolutely nowhere, she asked us the most wonderful question. Do you want to play with my ball? What? I yelped. You have a ball? A real-life ball? I couldn't believe that Ellie Mae had had a ball all this time and no one had ever mentioned it. We could have been playing Martian football or alien catch instead of endless I Spy. Yes, said Ellie Mae, acting as if everything were perfectly normal. So do you want to play? Yes, please, come on, let's go, I yelled. Together, we bounced along the deserted corridors towards Elijah and Ellie Mae's flat. The lights buzzed and our footsteps echoed. All work around the colony had stopped as everyone had been called to the biolab. There was no one about anywhere. That was until a figure flew out of a doorway and crashed into Elijah. "Watch it!" snapped the figure. It was Letitia. I wanted to pull a silly face at her and keep walking, but Elijah is nicer than I am. "I'm sorry, Letitia," he said. "I didn't see you. Do you want to play with us?" "No, thanks. I'm going to play with my own friends." She looked Ellie Mae up and down, taking in her newly improved dress. "Paint that yourselves, did you?" she said, in a way that suggested that she didn't think much of our art skills. Ellie Mae didn't notice the sneer in her voice. "There's still some paint left. We could decorate your clothes too." "No chance," Letitia scoffed before flouncing down the corridor. I was glad. I didn't want to play with Letitia anyway. In Ellie Mae's bedroom, we all gazed in awe at the ball. It was a football-sized inflatable sphere made of glittery purple plastic which swirled like the gases of Jupiter. The first game that we invented was small enough to fit inside Ellie Mae's tiny bedroom. We threw the ball hard at one wall and then dived out of the way. The competition was to see how many times it would bounce from wall to wall before it hit the ground. I held the record at 5 bounces until Elijah lifted Ellie Mae onto his shoulders, and together they got 7 bounces. Then we decided to go into the corridor where there was more space. We played football where Ellie Mae and Elijah were both goalies, and I was trying to score all the goals. Only there still wasn't very much space, so I couldn't get any goals in. Even Ellie Mae was big enough to block the corridor if she stuck her arms and legs out like a starfish. "I wish that we could just borrow spacesuits and go outside," I said. I imagined bounding over the red dust of Mars in a rubber suit, chasing the purple ball across the rusty valley. Then Ellie Mae said, "What about the greenhouse?" "Of course! The greenhouses are huge." "Yes, there's plenty of room to run around between the vegetable patches." We galloped down the corridors, me holding the ball and Elijah holding Ellie Mae's hand. As we passed the labs, we heard lots of noise and bustling. This was where all the grown-ups were, trying to fix the major fault. Some of the grown-ups leaked out of the door, heading back to their business, but I didn't really think about it at the time. We raced into the greenhouse, only to find that all the other children in the colony were there already. Some were skipping, some were strolling around or playing with toys on the floor. Letitia sat with her other friends on the low wall around the tomato bed. They were making friendship bracelets. "Let's play over there." I pointed in the opposite direction. We quickly decided where the goal would be and took turns being goalie. The game didn't really work, though, as the ball kept flying so high over our heads so that we couldn't even kick it. That's when Elijah suggested that we invent a new game called Mars Ball. It was a good idea, but first we had to do some scientific experiments to find out the best rules. The rules that we decided to test first were: 1. Anyone can touch the ball with their hands or feet. 2. If you pass the ball, it has to bounce on the ground at least once to be a valid pass. 3. To score a goal, you have to shoot between 2 goalposts, but the ball can go as high as you like. We never got a chance to try any other rules, and now we never will. "You'll get in trouble if you break something," said a voice from the pepper patch. It was Letitia. She'd come over with her friends just to annoy us. "If you want to play, you have to ask nicely," I told her. "It's a good thing I don't want to play, then. I don't want to get sent back to Earth for breaking something." "Could that really happen?" asked a worried Elijah. I told him not to be silly. Letitia was just winding us up. We had just switched so that Elijah was in goal with Ellie Mae and I was trying to score. That's when the grown-ups started to trickle into the greenhouse. I was taking a free kick because Ellie Mae had caught the ball before it bounced. I placed the ball between the potato patch and the herb bed, took a few steps back, ran at the ball, and slam! The ball flew into the air, high over the heads of all the children, high above the artichoke plants and beanstalks, and crashed into one of the overhead lamps dangling from the roof. Little pieces of lamp rained over the greenhouse and, splat, the ball landed on a patch of ripe melons. That's when a shadow fell over us. It was Elijah's mum, back from the emergency meeting. She wasn't angry. She was raging. "You 3, get out of the greenhouse right this second!" Her face was all scrunched and twisted, and she was shaking like leaves in a storm. We all stared at the ground as we shuffled from the greenhouse. I don't feel like telling the rest of the story. Imagine lots more yelling, unhappy grown-ups and being dragged to offices belonging to scary people you've never met before to discuss the seriousness of breaking a heating lamp that the colony relies on for food. Then imagine being sent straight to bed and sobbing into your pillow for hours and hours because it's not fair. Imagine all of that and you'll feel a teeny bit like I do now. That's the end of Jazz's diary entry for Chapter 6. There are more questions and activities that you can do after this video. Just click the link in the description to download the activity pack, and there are all of the answers to my questions in there too. Before Jazz's next diary entry, there is a news article and an email from Gran to read. Try to read those before you watch the next video because I'll be reading Jazz's diary entries from Chapter 7, and we'll be looking at how to make predictions about what's going to happen next in the text. See you then!